Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Houston Rocket video. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. We're going to start it off by talking a little bit more about the John Wall situation. Essentially, the Houston Rockets, they're not necessarily in an extreme rush to get rid of John Wall. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, John Wall reportedly wanted out of Houston. He's made it clear. However, it's not like he is pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, saying like, oh, you need to trade me by the first day of the season. So right now, the Houston Rockets, they are most likely not going to play John Wall. John Wall most likely will not play a single game for the Rockets this season. In fact, some people think that he'll just continue to be on the bench for the next 2-3 months, first 2-3 months of the season, and then at some point in 2022 they will buy him out. Personally, I think that they are trying to find a trade candidate, but here's something to keep in mind. You got 2 years left with John Wall. You have 3 years left with Eric Gordon. 2 years left with KPJ. 2 years left with Christian Wood. The Houston Rockets are not going to put themselves in a position where they are taking on big contracts for a large amount of years in order to keep max slots open, max free agency slots open, or max contract slots. Ideally, the Houston Rockets, they want to max out when eligible. Ideally, Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. Ideally, I'm sure they are hoping for Christian Wood. Either way, they're going to be planning for the end of 2023 season to have 2 open max contract slots there available. Ben Simmons, if he comes onto the roster, that's no longer doable. I don't want to say that Ben Simmons 100% will not be a Rocket, but it is interesting to kind of think about. I don't know which direction Rafael Stone wants to go in, because it's like, I don't think he will take on large contracts for a long period of time if they're older. But what about if they're still not even over the age of 25, like the case with Ben Simmons? So he might be the rare exception, but to me, money-wise, the Rockets, especially this season, they don't want to put themselves in a position where they are handcuffed for the future. So the John Wall trade, I don't think it's going to happen as soon as some people think. Don't think it'll happen before the start of the start of the season's in a couple of weeks here. We have preseason. First Rockets preseason game is next Tuesday. I think that's the 6th, 5th or 6th. So John Wall, most likely, to me, I think it'll take a month to get rid of him. Eric Gordon, I anticipate once John Wall is traded away, I just fully anticipate Eric Gordon's name to be not only in rumors, but he might actually come out and do the same thing John Wall is doing, where it's like, I want out. It's different because John Wall came here not trying to rebuild, and now we are rebuilding. Kind of the same goes with Eric Gordon. That's what he said to the press a couple of weeks ago, was like, yeah, it's a weird situation when you are competitive, trying to win a championship for, 6 straight years, 5-6 straight years, and then you go to winning 17 games. He said, it's obviously not ideal, and it's nothing anybody really wants. So I do think, considering Eric Gordon, I think a lot of people forget last year was the first year of his contract, and it wasn't even that bad. First year of his contract, he only made $16.8 million. This year, he'll be making $18.2, still a little manageable, and then it gets up to $19.5 and $20.9 for the final 2 years. With that being said, Eric Gordon at the age of 34, making $21 million, I would be a little hesitant. However, he should, for a contending team, he should have enough value after this season to still be able to trade him. He's still on a tradable contract. Also, in today's day and age, with all this money in the league, I really don't think any contract is untradeable. I think that a lot of them are just unideal, like specifically John Wall. But going back real quick to the John Wall situation, that's kind of what I mean by, I don't see them doing a trade with like the Los Angeles Clippers where you're getting Zubac, Serge, and Luke Kennard, who has several years on his contract, just got a pretty penny. I don't see them doing something like that, which puts them in a very difficult situation because you have to match John Wall's salary of $45 million a year, pretty much. You got to match that. You got to figure out a way to match that. So that's why I think Rafael Stone has something a little bit up his sleeve where he's working on a Ben Simmons, Karl Anthony Towns caliber type of trade, something that is just crazy. Because he's not going to do something that screws him, especially long term, short term. He's just not going to do something where it's like not maximizing his return is essentially what it is. A couple other things I wanted to talk about, considering we have preseason starting really quickly here, is David Nwaba. I wanted to talk about David Nwaba for just a little bit because to me, David is a very, very underrated signing, very underrated free agent signing. The Rockets could really use more perimeter. I mean, they could use more defense in general, but especially around that perimeter. If you're going to have a starting lineup or a starting backcourt duo of Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, defensively, they're 100% going to struggle. So that's why the projected starting lineups, you'll see Daniel Tice being in there, you'll see Jae'Sean Tate being in there, but I think, and I made my video 2 days ago saying I think Daniel House should actually be in there a couple of times just because he's so good when starting compared to a reserve role. If you want to go watch that, it's like from 2 days ago. I think David Nwaba should get a couple of starts this season, just pretty much dependent on matchups. Also, if he is red hot, maybe continue to start him. But defensively, he gives me more than I would see from like Jae'Sean Tate. And then offensively, David Nwaba, I thought last year specifically took a huge leap. It was something that I had never seen with David Nwaba offensively ever. And honestly, if he wasn't on the 17-win team Houston Rockets, I think you would have had a bunch of teams trying to pay him and trying to lock him up. I don't know if he wants to be a part of a contending team or if he wants to be a part of a rebuilding team. I'm not sure which one his personal preference would be, but it's hard to imagine him being on like the Brooklyn Nets like he used to, but having such an efficient year last year and then just kind of fallen by the wayside in free agency. It seems like no one was really trying to make a stretch or a stride for him, and we had a ton of debates before the free agency started where it was like, who are we going to pick? Are we going to pick David Nwaba or are we going to pick Sterling Brown? I was starting to lean a little bit more towards Sterling Brown because of his three-point percentage. I still think Sterling Brown is awesome and he's going to really turn some heads over in Dallas. But David Nwaba defensively, and then he's becoming offensively a really good player, really solid, just reliable two-way player. That's going to be it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button, post Rockets content every single day, especially when the season starts. We'll be getting back into our live streams and all that good stuff. So have a nice week. Hit the like button. Peace.